Hey guys, Sunken here. I'm just here to talk about part 2 of Elemental, which is entitled Water. If you haven't seen part 1, by all means go and check it out. But I'm just going to give you a little preview of the track and talk through about how I've approached the sound design. So there you go, so that's Water, and I'll do my best to break through this slightly messier track. So I guess we'll start from the top and we'll work our way down. What I have is a bunch of different background effects, really, more than anything else. This one being heavily featured with water, it was hard to imagine what kind of percussive sounds I could make, so I started off with the sound bed with typos. I work until quite late. I'm just going to sort that out now. And I basically, as I mentioned in the previous version, I do dedicated sound design sessions. So from this sound design session, I think I managed to get about 40 or 50 different audio files, and you know, they're all pretty wacky. I'll just play through a bunch of them now just so you can hear what they sounded like originally. So pretty varied in how they sound, which is good. You know, variation is good. But what I ended up doing is basically just chopping small sections out of all of these different sound design pieces and just using them in a different context. So let's just play the top 3 layers and we'll see how that sounds together. So, you know, it's just an atmospheric bed. I'm a big fan of side-chained white noise sort of things to fill in the gaps. On this particular one, I put a frequency shifter to basically almost pitch it down in a way, and high-passed it quite heavily and side-chained it to the percussion. The percussion is actually one of the most interesting parts of Water. The way that it was made was I recorded myself hitting a plastic watering can that was filled with water, and it sounded kind of like a bongo when I did it, and I ended up with this kind of result. It's pretty cool. Sort of garagey influenced, I guess. I'm running at 130, so you know, it's good for what I need. The beat, I'm not sure what this is, but let's find out together. Yeah, so that one is more of like the driving force behind it. If I play that in isolation, so what that crazy sound file is as I mentioned in the previous video, I like to do sessions where I'll hit record on a channel and I'll tweak various parameters. And for this particular one, I used Ableton's grain delay. It comes with Ableton. It's a really cool plugin, and it looks like this. So basically what I did was I hit record, and all credit to Andy from Amos, great producers. He did an online sound design session with me, and he introduced me to this grain delay and how you can use it to create new sounds from the existing audio you have. And I just hit record, and I just sort of tweaked and mucked around and pressed different things, and tried to get as much variation as I could until I got bored, which was a considerable amount of time. But that's how I ended up with that, and I just chopped it and rearranged it in a way that made sense, and did some processing, EQ, compressor, EQ, no saturator really on this one, but yeah. The watering can features quite heavily in this. It really gave it a nice sort of live percussive feel. I'm not a professional bongo player, obviously, but just tapping away at it and then chopping it up into minute segments and using it bit by bit really fit the vibe of the track. So let's listen to this bit. So you get the idea of that. That's basically all it was doing, was just sort of making it seem more garagey, I guess. The next section that I had was drips. The drips sort of come in and out of the track as it progresses, and there's more sort of drum fills more than anything else. I didn't have any drums, so I just decided to use the water dripping instead, and a lot of these were recorded at my home. I used my Tascam DR40, got real close to dripping taps, the toilet flushing. I also went to a nearby creek and recorded water running for quite an extended period, and dropped some stones in, whatnot, just made some noise basically. Got some funny looks from neighbors, but that's the price you pay. And I ended up with a few things like this. Pitched down quite a bit. I didn't warp it, but that's one of my favorite things to do actually, is play with the warp modes in Ableton. You can get a lot of variation just from one sample. And here's another one. So it's actually the same sample, just pitched up and pitched down. Yeah. And the next sort of thing that I did was I did some granular manipulation on a few different sounds, and granular synthesis is a really, really great tool for sound designers. It makes things sound very futuristic. Actually doesn't sound very granular, but you do what you can. This is I sort of worked in a bit of a strange way with this project. I made a bit of a loop and then did sound design purely for the intros. So they were all meant to sit as part of a collective, so they were going to flow from one into the other. So I wanted them to be kind of sparse, really, beat wise, but just a lot of different textures and whatnot going on. And this is this one. So that was made using the warp modes on complex setting, and I just stretched out the last bit as far as it would go, to give you that weird cool time stretchy sort of thing. Few different pour-in sounds actually. These really, really cool, and they're all from the same section earlier on. Pretty noisy recordings. I've ramped the volume up quite a bit, but in the context of the track you don't really notice it, so it's I'm not trying not to excessively EQ things if I can help it. It's very easy to over process things. A few different risers, but I'm not going to worry too much about going through that for you. This underwater sound was basically the creek nearby. I recorded that, but when I filtered it quite a lot and resampled it, yeah, it just sounded like it was underwater. Really cool. More percussion. This project's not as neat as air, unfortunately. I guess that's, I'm kind of scared of water, so it sort of fit in for me, really. But more watering cans. And what's this? So that came from the sound design session as well, which I might go through at a later date, but this is the original. So what that was a mixture of a few of the different water recordings and a few of the different watering can hits, and just layered in a bunch of different ways and pitch shifted and time stretched and whatnot. Pretty standard stuff. For this one, I did actually use an instrument, and the reason for that is that through my research for this project, I found that certain or at least types of instruments are related to each of the elements. For water, I was kind of like, well, I can't, make an instrument out of water, can I? So, but I picked up a glockenspiel really cheap from an op shop nearby, and metallic instruments are actually related to water in the traditional sense if you're looking into Greek history and whatnot. And I just did a little bit of pitching and a bit of warping and a repitch mode, so quite heavily actually, so you ended up with this. Center reverb and delay, just to put it in its own space, really. Bottle sound design, let's check it out. Again, playing with warp modes, you get a lot of different results from things like that, but it's the glockenspiel again, basically. A few different risers and fills. I guess we'll go through these. There's a lot to get through in this project. So those are just as end parts to each bar and whatnot, just to lead it into the next beat, I guess. Let's get rid of these. And this one. Just some low pass water recording, which I chopped up a little and rearranged just to fit the beat of the tune and fit the tempo a little bit. I didn't warp these, so it was more just a manual chopping mission and pitching down and whatnot. If I just play this one and just mess around with the pitching, you'll get so you record things like that live, and you can sort of save them in your sample bank and use them again later. More percussion, which ideally would be with the rest of the percussion, but what are you going to do? With a fair amount of reverb on that one. The appropriately titled Scary Riser, which is this. Again, pouring water. You can kind of hear that in there. And a few of the pebble splashes, these were just sort of to punctuate bits of silence in the track. And you can kind of hear the granular effects on a few of these as well. So the underwater sweep, which is strange because it's called pebble splash. So what I did there was I automated the frequency of an EQ just to sort of high pass it as it goes, really. I actually did a sort of manual band pass, really. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to automate things in that particular moment. A little bit of grain delay. Again, you know, heavily affected water, really. And a lot of this is very sort of similar in terms of how it was made. Fittingly to water, it all flowed quite nicely, really, with the sound design sessions, and you know, it came together really well. Especially the mix down, it just came out a lot louder than any of the other ones, which I sort of struggled with dynamics in a lot of the other ones, but we'll get into that as we go through. And that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope it's been a little insightful. I'll go through some of the sound design techniques in a separate video, but this is more about the composition, really, more than anything else. So thanks a lot.